The only reason why you prefer another country's currency to your currency is the amount of faith you have in your country. The economy is driven by faith. And what drives that faith is hope. Because there's no hope in your country, you don't have faith in it. So you prefer another man's currency. If you go around, British people keep their money in British pounds. Italians, there was no euro then. Italians keep their money in lira, even when the rate is worse than the rate. Chinese in Chinese yuan, Singaporeans in Singaporean dollar, Malaysians in ringgit, Germans in Dutch. And went around and said, but because you don't have faith in your country, you prefer another country's currency. Can I ask you for a favor? I said, yes. Can you go back to your country? Before you ask me that favor, you ask something. From your profile, you are a director in about 3 quoted countries, even a vice chairman of the bank. Are you worth $1 million? And I said, yes. Are you worth 2? I said, yes. Are you worth 5? I said, yes. So then you don't need to. If you're worth $5 million, you can actually live your life for the rest of your life without making more money because you have enough food, enough to move around. If you invest it properly, it will be giving you all you need. The rest of the money after that is the one that is in the bank, and the bankers are using it to do that. I'm worth about the same thing. Can I ask you a favor? Can you go back to your country and participate in building public wealth? Go and start in government. Public wealth enriches everybody. Individual wealth impoverishes everybody. That's what I will leave you with. That was where we stopped. And I had his $100. Said I should keep his $100, which I was very happy to keep. I left Kano the next day. I went back to Nigeria. There were a series of issues that happened, very sadly. And I decided, and I come home, you know what I mean? I came home to my wife and said, listen, I'm going to go to my state and contest for governor. Up to then, I never voted. Never had anything to do with politics. And you know what it means to have a young marriage and you're telling you, simply that are you crazy? What is happening to you? She started calling everybody. She doesn't know what I'm doing. I said it's going to the village to go and contest to be governor. Instead of investing in money, the investment we were trying to do then, that if I had invested today, I would have worth millions of dollars. I said, see this money, I'm going to put it in politics. I've stopped investing. And it was one of the most difficult things that happened in my life. But looking back now, as difficult, with all the things I've lost, I have a sense of fulfillment that at least I can say, I changed this, I changed this, I changed this. And even still participating in it in Nigeria. When I was coming here today, somebody asked me, said, how do you feel about contesting election for the office of the president and what has happened in everything and what has happened? Let me tell you, we're just beginning. We won't stop until we dismantle that crime scene. And we dismantle it. So that's basically how I feel. For me, we need to all come together and make Africa work, make Nigeria work, and make collectively the Black world work.
Thank you so much for that. My next question is actually, you kind of spoke about the economy and like how it got you into politics. Currently with the rate of Naira being really high compared to like pounds, what do you think would be the best policies to make sure that is better and the Naira is stronger? And B, what do you think our current governments can take on that?
Well, for me, it's a very easy thing. First, you ask yourself, what drives the rate of your currency? It's a very simple answer. Your reserve. What drives your reserve? Your exports. Countries have been in where we are today. It's very sophisticated. If you look at my campaign, I insisted we must move from consumption to production. Simple. There's nothing wrong with entire Africa. Entire Africa, not just about Nigeria. What is lacking is one simple thing: leadership. You can turn it around in a small space of time. With effortless ease. I was discussing with somebody. I think it was this morning. I said, listen, you have a situation. If I take the entire, I'm talking about the entire Africa now, because I'm sure so many people here are not from Nigeria. Am I right? Are all of you from Nigeria? Huh? No. Thank you. So we have 4 people from, where are you from? Somalia. Huh? Somalia. Thank you. The entire Africa, let me just compare the entire Africa so you see why we must do more. Today, Africa remains the only unexplored, unproductive continent. But the entire Africa, in terms of land size, Africa is about 30 million square miles of land. That's about 30 million square. Europe, the entire Europe, it's about 10,000. The other 10,000 point something, and then this one is 30,000. So Africa, in terms of land size, is 3 times the size of Europe. In terms of population, the entire Europe is about 743 million. We are 1.4 billion something. So we are twice their size. And our youth population is unbelievable. Not from here. But when you now compare the fact that if you look at our economy, the entire Europe GDP is about 16.6. And we are 2.2. So we're 8 times that. And what is making that? Just because I'm productive. So it's managing your rate of exchange is not a rocket science. It's fact that you have to produce and export something. By that, you increase your reserve, and if you increase your reserve, you manage your rates. The rates will come to what it's supposed to be. And in case of Nigeria, then I can come back to Nigeria. Nigeria today, I'll just give you an example using 1 or 2 states, which I always use on the example. We have a state called Niger State. Niger State is 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land in size. Very fertile land. Where you can grow your food, everything, even fresh sport. But Niger State today produces nothing. In fact, 7 local governments in a place called Niger State is occupied by bandits. So nobody goes there. Look at the population, and they have a population of about 5 million people. Netherlands in Europe is a total of 41,000 square kilometers of land. If you minus what, they're about 33,000. But in 2021, 2022, they did export of agricultural products of 120-something billion dollars. So Niger State is 2.5 times Netherlands. Netherlands country could do export of over $125 billion. And these people, zero. The entire money they get from statutory allocation, if the money is allocated to them, the entire money they will get for the year is 50 billion naira. 50 billion naira today, I'm going to use just 1,000 to $1 is exactly $50 million. But if they do just 2% of the exports of Netherlands, $2.5 billion. So they could actually earn 50 times what they get from what is being shared if they do production. And they have more land space. Netherlands population is about 17.4 million, and they have about 5 million. So it's so the pocket size. This is, you can say, is a developed country. But look at something like Vietnam that came out of war. Vietnam total export is over $400 billion, about $400 billion. Nigerian total export is about $40 billion. So we can't even do 10% of what Vietnam is doing. Vietnam is supposed to be the third world. They are 100 million people, so they are half of our population. And the total land space of Vietnam is 331,000 square kilometers of land. So we have to widen 3 times, because we are 923,000. So we have 3 times their land space to widen their population, but look at the export. So it's not a difficult thing. What is difficult is that in Africa, the leadership and politicians have turned the space, including Nigeria, into a gigantic criminal enterprise and refuse to leave so we can build the country. And yet it was putting Africa to within them. All of you here at schools here, you have seen that there's no difference between people you met here and us. They're not more relaxed, they're not more intelligent, except that we have parents who have decided not to help. If you do that, you can curtail the man. It's just export. In our own case, we have natural resources. People are stealing our oil. And if I show you the calculation of what we're losing, people are stealing our oil, you won't believe it.
Thank you so much. My next question, you kind of spoke about productivity influencing how we're going to bring down the rate. But my question is, there's a lot of young talent leaving Nigeria because of the government, and that means, again, productivity is going down because we aren't able to retain young talent. How do you think is the best way to actually manage that?
Well, quite frankly, when I was campaigning, I wasn't against it. I wasn't against their living. They call it brain drain. And my position is that there will be brain gain when you fix the place. The change you see in Asia today were done by people, Asians that left the country. All I've seen in China today and everywhere in Asia, India, are people who left at a crisis stage and went to a better part of the world. All the people I met in school, in state school here, in church school in Cambridge, all of them are back to their place. So all of you will come back once the place is fixed. In fact, you will be the first investors with the money you're making here. My neighbor, I lived in the UK for 10 years. And I always tell people too, I lived in the UK when things were not working. They used to be, when they do light shedding in London, they'll tell me that I'm not going to have light for 8 hours. Before Margaret Thatcher came and broke down everything, without Margaret Thatcher, this won't be the way it is today. They used to have problems with London electricity, London water, UK telephone companies, the airports and everything. When Margaret Thatcher started privatizing all of them, and It's change. It's leadership. So now that it's happening, I could see, I used to have a neighbor who is from India. And he used to tell me, oh, this is what is happening, everything. But today is back to India. Same thing goes with one of the fastest growing economy today, or countries today, is Bangladesh. I was in Bangladesh in 2009 when the present Prime Minister started about that. You will not believe it. Then their capital, their GDP was 1/3 of Nigeria. The capital. Because we were about 2,000 and something. We were 700 and something then. Today, it's amazing where they are. In fact, they do just export of clothing, almost $50 billion. About our entire export, Bangladesh. And when I look at it, I could see what you can get by brain gain, when I talk about brain gain. The present Prime Minister was daughter of the first Prime Minister or founder of Bangladesh, who happened to be in his school in the Western world, somewhere. And when terrorists came and killed the father, all the family, leaving only her and sister that were in school in England. Today you could see everything. And look at all the tech world, what India are doing. So the brain gain will come. Now nobody can say to you, oh well listen, stay in an environment that is not conducive and everything. When I went to university, those who went to overseas were those who supposedly are not doing well at home. Today, it's the other way around. People want to go to school because they have a better school than it is. But I assure you, you are going to bring the talent, the resources that we need. So when we're saying about removing them, you are the resources we're going to use to change the place.
Thank you so much for your answer. You kind of touched on this question beforehand, but just in terms of, I know the Supreme Court recently ruled against the appeal for the presidential. Or do you want to talk about it? You don't have to, but if you have any thoughts you want to share on it.
Well, I have made comment on it, and I don't want to make comment on it. I will even try to make comment on it. Just
that's fine.
I just plead to be excused from this one. But I'll make comment on it, and you will read it, and you'll explore it.
Of course, no worries. So at this point, I just want to open it up to anybody in the audience who has any questions that they would like to ask.
I think you mentioned like the example of a place like Vietnam. You said the example of a place like Vietnam and other countries, and talk about their economic growth. I guess a question I wanted to ask is, in terms of like regional cooperation and, for example, trade between African countries, that's a major thing which is lacking. How do you see that potential future when there's more intra-African trade happening? What needs to happen for that to be the case?
Thank you. Intra-African. Next one.
I wanted to ask, like,
Speak louder, please.
as young people in the diaspora right now, what do you think we can do as, like, to be able to help, Nigeria?
Can you take one more question?
So this is just an intro. Recently, we saw like a wave of coups that happened across Francophone Africa, and one of them, the president of Burkina Faso, was praised for being very like anti-Western and anti-foreign aid. Especially now, we're also kind of seeing a move towards more trade with Russia and China and shifting away from the Western nations. So I was just wondering, do you think there's still a part of Western nations in the conditions that keep African countries underdeveloped? how that affects, the value of production we're able to have in this day and age?
Well, quite frankly, I'm going to take the two questions in the trade and what you said. The history of the black man, quite frankly, has a history of being less human. And we have to face the fact, being less human, being not equal to other races of the world, from slave trade to colonialism to such exploitation of making people feel inferior and everything, which happened even in the streets of Western world and everything, where people feel okay, when I lived in the UK, I remember once they called us meeting in the Nigerian High Commission where everybody comes and said, oh, this is plan racist, oh, this is plan this and all this plan. I agree. It's racism. I agree. There's discrimination and everything. But I always say to people, if you feel that racism, go back to your place where there's no racism. And that's the only way to solve it. If I come to somebody's house and he doesn't want me, I go home. But if you can't go home, well, it's not any condition that he gives you because that's it. So I live here, and I live on any condition. I didn't have to complain because if it was good for me, I would be here. So, simple. Yes, what you say, there is still, and that's what I'm trying to tell you, that it has to do with leadership of the continent of Africa. Africa has the youngest youth population today. Very resourceful, very energetic. But if properly applied by investing in human infrastructure, by educating them, doing the right things to generate that human capital, the world will not be the same again. And that brings what is said about intertrade. Today you have, tomorrow, British people get up and say, oh, British African meeting. He invites all the African heads of states, heads of government, presidents, and they come to London to be lectured about governance and how to live their life. Tomorrow is the German African Summit. The next day is the France African Summit. And our presidents are willing to run to Europe to listen to all this. Come on. Africa is more resourceful, have more opportunities than all these people inviting them. Like I said before, I use Nigeria as an example. Germany, the biggest economy in Europe. UK, the second biggest economy in Europe. France, the third one. If you put these three together, in terms of land size, they're about 1,152,000 square kilometers of land. UK is about 243. I think France is about 551, and you have 357 for Germany. If you put these three together, they're actually just about 15-20% bigger in terms of land size than Nigeria. In terms of population, UK has 67, France has 64, and Germany at 84. It's about 216 million. That is the size of Nigerian population. But when you combine their economy, the GDP of three of them put together, of course, Germany at 4.4, you have UK at 3.3, and France about 3. They are about 10 trillion, 10.something trillion, and we are 400. They are 25 times our GDP. How come we have the same size of land, most same size of land, and we have the same size of population, more resources, more useful, and they are doing 25,000 will do. So you could see that, why is that happening? Because we have not sat down to put our resources in an effective, productive way. If we do that, we don't need to. I see people rushing and saying, oh, we are looking for foreign investor. Nobody looks for foreign investor. Foreign investor has a relationship with like bee and honey. If you put honey here, all of us now put honey here, and we'll go out of this room. Tomorrow, if you come here, sleepy, how to enter here, only God knows. But you have one here, you will come in. And that's how foreign investors are. You don't need to look for them. Stay back and fix your country. I was in Bangladesh about 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago to do a lecture. They finished the G20 meeting in India. The French president, Macron, came to Bangladesh. You know why? The Bangladesh Airways have ordered 10 Airbus 350. He came to see the Prime Minister. You don't go to people and say, okay, come and invest in a war-torn area or in a place where people are stealing everybody. No, nobody takes his money there. Fix your place, stay back there. So there's still this mentality of slavery, colonialism, everything, rather stay back and deal with what we can do to be able to create a listen. And instead of intertrading with Africa, I'm going to go to Europe, you meet them as partners, not they're inviting you like we've been to Nigeria, we're inviting you for a G20 meeting, and maybe we'll put Nigeria needs as a concession so they will remember, so it becomes tokenism. I have said it. I won't go to such meeting as President of Nigeria. I will go as a member. Whatever they've done with their economy to qualify them, I will do it because I've been to everywhere, including schools with them. They have better bread. And what they are doing is available to me. And I can do it. All I need is to stay back and do the right things. And then I can ask the question, what do we do to help? A lot. Because you're dealing with a situation where you are exposed, you are in the Western world, you know what the problem is. Most people who are there are trapped. They don't know what the problem is. They think, oh, if I'm campaigning and I come to campaign and I give people money and everything to vote for me, that will change their life. They didn't know that their money has been stolen and give it back to them in a small manner. But they don't look at it, what could be. So there's a lot we can do, all of us, by saying, oh, we can't go this way. This is where we're going to go. And what are they doing today to make it work? Oh, they come and tell you about, oh, this person is from here, this person is this, this person is this. Now we talked about Naira and pound exchange. You said so. Is there any tribe that buys pound cheaper in Nigeria? Is there any tribe that buys bread cheaper? Is there any religion that buys it cheaper? Because it's not things they introduce. I can tell you there's Muslims, there's Christians in Nigeria. If there's any place Muslims buy bread cheaper, Christians will go there and buy the bread and go back to their church. If there's any place Muslims buy dollar or pound cheaper, Christians will go there and buy. But these are things they use. And I always use them and tell them that I used to go to Dubai. I went to Dubai for the first time in my life in 1991 when there was nothing in Dubai. You will not believe it. The only church, Catholic church in Dubai, the land was donated by Emir of Dubai. The building, the church was built by him. And it's Catholic church. If you go there, you see it. So that's built, done, donated by him, you know. But the back home, they tell you, oh, it's Muslim, it's this. Because they use it as manipulation. Or you're from this side, you're from that side. If you see anywhere anybody buys bread cheaper, let me know. So these are things people like you can help to get people to understand that what we need is good governance that will start taking issues that borders on development, investing in education, investing in health, investing in pulling people out of poverty. This is all they need to do. I need to have a place.